There's a 5-year window that determines whether you'll spend your retirement living freely or constantly fret over your money. It's because everyone focuses on the wrong thing. They obsess over what they'll do in retirement. But the important thing is not what happens on the day you retire. What matters is the 5 years leading up to it. I've seen people with over $2 million blow it because they ignored this window, and others with far more modest savings that set themselves up for success because they navigated it correctly. So I'm going to break down the biggest changes that hit all retirees during this time, how to prepare, and ultimately how you can get through it with the best result possible. For most of your career, you've been fighting on too many fronts: college tuition, mortgage, car payments, kids, and you've taken your eye off the ball. You haven't had enough to direct towards savings. But something shifts in this window, and most people don't take full advantage of it. The kids are out, the mortgage is lower or gone, and your income is likely at its peak. So, for the first time, you actually have real money that you can direct towards savings. So, let me walk you through exactly where it needs to go because the order matters more than people realize. But before you start saving, there's something you need to know. You've probably heard things like good debt and bad debt, but let me simplify it for you. Any interest on debt is a guaranteed negative return. So, number one, if you have any debt, over 8% especially, you need to pay that off immediately. Pay that off before anything else because no investment strategy can reliably beat that. And once that's cleared, you can start maxing out your savings. And when I say savings, I don't mean your savings account. Start with your 401k or 403b. And look, the IRS knows that you've been living life for the last 40 years, and that's why they increased the contribution limits in that last decade before retirement. For 2026, the contribution limits goes up from 26,500 to 32,500 at age 50. And if you're 60 to 63, you get a super catch-up that lets you put away more than $35,000 annually. Most people don't even know that this option exists, so take full advantage of this. And at the bare minimum, make sure you capture the full employer match. Then maximize your Roth IRA if you have one. The combined limits for traditional and Roth IRAs goes up from 7,600 to 8,500 at age 50. Roth contributions are after tax, so the growth is tax-free and the withdrawals are tax-free. It's one of the best tools available. If you have a high deductible health plan, make sure you take advantage of the Health Savings Account or HSA. These are triple tax advantage. The contributions are pre-tax, the growth is tax-free, and the withdrawals are tax-free for medical expenses. And during retirement, you can use them towards Medicare premiums, out-of-pocket costs, and even long-term care. So max it out every year if you can. But before you go putting all your money into 401ks, you need to be aware of this. These tax deferred accounts are great for reducing your taxable income today and getting that tax-free growth. However, they can become a tax liability in retirement. And that's exactly why this next account matters. And the order you contribute is actually just as important as how much you save. After the employer match on your 401k and your Roth IRA and the HSA, you want to contribute to a taxable brokerage account. I'll explain more when we get to taxes, but the short answer is that it gives you a lot more flexibility than your 401k can. So the order of contributions is your 401k, your Roth IRA, your HSA, and then the taxable brokerage. Now, even if you've maxed out your savings, the greatest risk to your retirement plan is still looming large. And this is where people make the biggest mistake. Conventional wisdom says get more conservative as you approach retirement. That means moving more money to bonds and reducing risk. And there's a real reason why this advice exists. It's called sequence of returns risk. So let me show you how it works. Once you understand the mechanics, you'll understand why it's important and also why the conventional solution often makes things worse. If the market drops 30% in the first year of retirement, you're withdrawing from a shrinking account, and you may never fully recover, even if the market bounces back. A bad year at 75 could hurt, but at 62, when you're starting your withdrawals, that could permanently alter your retirement plan. That's the real threat, but here's where people go wrong when they try to solve it. Moving everything to bonds feels like the safe bet, but your retirement needs to last 30 or 40 years, and inflation at 3 to 4% over that time is a much greater risk to your plan than any market downturn. A portfolio that's too conservative erodes your purchasing power. The balance may look great, but what it can buy is not the same. Okay. So what's the actual solution? Well, it's not about how aggressive or conservative your portfolio is. It's about building a buffer that allows your portfolio to survive in a bad year, so you don't have to sell your investments to pay for your living expenses. Ideally, you want 3 buckets for your investment dollars. Bucket 1 is 1 to 3 years of living expenses, either in a money market or high yield savings account. If the market tanks, you draw from this, not your portfolio, and that gives your investments time to recover. This single move neutralizes the sequence of returns risk. Bucket 2 is for 3 to 10 years. In this, you'll have bonds and moderate risk investments. And over time, Bucket 2 will replenish Bucket 1. And then you have Bucket 3. These are your long term equities. This is money you're not going to touch for 10 years or more. And you want that money to grow and outpace inflation. Most people approaching retirement skip Bucket 1 entirely. Then they move everything too conservative and end up accidentally trading short term volatility risk for long term inflation risk. So build the buffer and keep your long term money working for you. Now, maybe all of this is starting to feel like a lot, and part of you is thinking, I'll just figure it out later. But here's the problem with that. Right now, you have a paycheck, you have a safety net. And when you have a safety net, it's easy to procrastinate. There's always next month, next year, plenty of time. But retirement doesn't work like that. The moment you stop working, every decision you didn't make suddenly has to be made under pressure with no income coming in and with real consequences if you get it wrong. By the time most people sit down to figure out their budget in retirement, the damage is already done. Decisions that should have been made years ago are suddenly having to be made in a panic. Start building your budget now. The core expenses like housing, transportation, healthcare, and then you have optional things like travel or hobbies, dining out. These also matter in the enjoyment of your retirement, but they're flexible. And then budget for unexpected costs or emergencies. For most people, the single largest expense they're carrying into retirement will be housing. Aside from the mortgage and property taxes, there's maintenance. A new AC could cost $8,000 to $12,000, a new roof up to $25,000. These feel manageable on a salary, but when you're drawing down your savings to pay for them, that can be painful. Downsizing is the obvious move. Sell the larger home and move into something that costs less and is easier to maintain. But maybe you don't want to do that. If you want to stay in your home, consider doing an audit. Walk through your home and make a list of all the things that are aging, your roof, your AC, your water heater, and start making those costly repairs now while you have an income to back you up. Walking into retirement with lower housing costs can change the math significantly. But there's one other expense that, regardless of what you do, will likely go up. Healthcare costs are rising faster than inflation. According to Fidelity's 2025 study, they found that an average 65-year-old retiring today would spend $172,000 on healthcare over the course of their lifetime. And for a couple, that's over $300,000, and that number gets larger every year. And here's another thing that doesn't get talked about enough. Nearly 70% of Americans will require some type of long term care during their lifetime. And if you're retiring before 65, you also need to bridge the gap to Medicare with either private insurance, COBRA, or ACA plans. For early retirees, those could cost tens of thousands of dollars. There's a lot to cover on this topic, and that's why I created a free guide to help you navigate your healthcare choices if you're in early retirement before age 65. There's a link in the description where you can get your copy. So what can you do to actually reduce your healthcare costs? Well, there are 4 moves, and the last one is one that nobody talks about. First, if you have a high deductible health plan and an HSA, and you haven't been maxing it out, you need to start now. I covered this in the savings section, but it needs to be mentioned again. An HSA is a dedicated healthcare fund that grows tax-free and never expires. Every dollar that you put in your HSA is a dollar that you don't have to withdraw from your portfolio when you have medical bills. Second, evaluate long-term care insurance options before you assume you don't need it. Premiums rise significantly with age, and you may not qualify later. This 5-year window might be the time where they're still accessible and affordable. Third is to use what you have now. The moment you leave your job, that comprehensive employer coverage is gone. So take advantage of what you have today. Get those preventative screenings, dental work, and if there's anything else your doctor's recommended that might be elective, like a knee replacement, have those conversations now. These procedures are far easier to navigate with comprehensive health insurance. And this last thing, you won't hear in any other retirement content, but it may matter more than all the others combined. We get away with a lot of bad habits in our 20s and 30s, and what worked for us the last 50 years is not going to work for the next 50 years. Exercise, nutrition, and sleep, this is not just wellness advice, this is financial advice. Fitness and preventative care in your 50s consistently reduces medical costs during retirement. So invest in your health now. The habits that you build in this window will be either ones that you pay for or benefit from over the next 30 years. Once that budget is built, you need to answer one question. Where is the income coming from? Most people just think about portfolio withdrawals, but that's a recipe for disaster. You need to think of retirement income in layers. The first layer is your fixed income. This is usually Social Security for most people, or a pension. This is a check that comes no matter what happens in the market. The stronger this layer is, the less pressure you have on others. But here's the situation I see too often. Someone retires at 62 and they don't have enough to cover their expenses, so they claim Social Security early at 62. Well, this permanently reduces their benefit. Delaying Social Security from 62 to 70 can increase your monthly benefit by 75%. Over a 30-year retirement with compounding, that's a significant amount of money. And that's exactly why we need this next layer. Layer 2 is variable or optional income. This could be your part-time work, consulting, freelancing, maybe your rental income or a side business, anything that supplements your income but isn't guaranteed. This layer is powerful because it allows you to delay Social Security and withdraw less from your portfolio, which means that your money can last longer. But it requires intention. You can't assume it'll be there if you haven't built it. If you want consulting income at 63, you need to start laying the foundation at 58. People who retire smoothly into part-time work have taken the time to build it while they had a salary. Layer 3 is your portfolio, and this is where everyone is focusing their attention, but it's actually the layer you want to lean on last. Your brokerage account, your 401ks, IRAs, the longer you can delay drawing from these, the more time your money has to grow. But growing those accounts is not the full story because all investment accounts are not created equal. They have different rules for contributions, withdrawals, and especially for taxes. If you wait until retirement to figure this out, there's not much you can do about it. The decisions that give you the most control over your money and your tax bill have to be made well before your retirement date. Most people look at their 401k and think that that's all their money. But the IRS has been a silent partner the entire time. Every dollar you put in was pre-tax, and that means every dollar you take out is going to be taxed as ordinary income. And that's why you want to have three different investment buckets for tax purposes. The first is your traditional accounts like your IRAs and 401ks. Taxes are deferred going in and paid coming out. And all the withdrawals from these types of accounts are taxed as ordinary income. Also, these accounts are subject to required minimum distributions or RMDs. After age 70, the government requires withdrawals from tax deferred accounts whether you want it or not. Next, you have Roth accounts. Taxes are paid going in, so the growth is tax-free and the withdrawals are tax-free, and there are no required distributions. And then you have your taxable brokerage account. This is after-tax money that's been invested. So you only pay future taxes on gains if you sell, but those are taxed at capital gains tax rates, not income tax rates. And there are no forced withdrawals, and you have complete flexibility over when you take those withdrawals. So how does this all help you with your taxes? Let's say you need $80,000 to live on and you have $30,000 coming in from Social Security. So you need another $50,000. Well, you could take that $50,000 from your 401k, but that entire 50 grand would be then taxed as ordinary income. But if you have three different types of accounts to draw from, you can split up that 50,000. You could take 30,000 from your 401k and then take some from your taxable brokerage, which would be taxed at capital gains tax rates, which is lower than your income tax rates. And then you can take some from Roth, which is tax-free. So that would lower your total taxable income. And that reduces not only the taxes on the withdrawal, but also reduces the taxes you would pay on Social Security, and it keeps your Medicare premiums lower. The years before your retirement are the best opportunity to build these three buckets. So after your employer match and your Roth, your HSA, you want to start putting money into a taxable brokerage account so you have the flexibility during retirement to keep your taxable income low. 5 years, 5 areas: your savings, your investment strategy, your budget, your income, and your taxes. And none of these work in isolation. Your savings affects your Social Security timing, your income affects your investment strategy, and your healthcare plan affects your budget. The people who get this right aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who've sat down and planned it out. If you're retiring before 65, the healthcare part is one that most people haven't planned. The guide in the description below lays out all your options. Make sure you check it out. And if you want to dive deeper into sequence of returns risk, that's exactly what I break down in this next video here. Check it out.